This is the early edition, a curated weekday guide to major news and developments over the past 24 hours, curated by Lizzie Jennings and read by an automated voice. Published November 6, 2025 on Just Security, an essential resource for those shaping a just and secure world. Here's today's news. Israel-Hamas war ceasefire. In the last several days, U.S. officials have proposed in talks that Hamas fighters in the Rafah tunnels on the Israeli side of the Yellow Line in Gaza surrender and hand over their weapons to a third party such as Egypt, Qatar, or Turkey. In return, Israel would grant amnesty to the militants who would be transferred out of Israeli-controlled areas to areas under Hamas control. We want this to be a test case that could possibly be expanded later to other areas in Gaza. The Israeli position is maximalist as usual, but we are in the middle of negotiations, a U.S. official said. Barak Ravid reports for Axios. Hamas yesterday handed over the remains of deceased Tanzanian hostage Joshua Malel to Israel, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office confirmed today. Catherine Armstrong and David Gritton report for BBC News. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said yesterday that the WHO will rebuild or renovate 20 destroyed health facilities across Gaza. From next week, WHO, UNICEF, and UNO will start providing routine vaccinations, nutrition screening and treatment, and growth monitoring for an estimated 44,000 children. Stephen Quillen and Faisal Ali report for Al Jazeera. West Bank violence. Israeli forces and settlers have carried out 2,350 attacks across the occupied West Bank in the last month, according to the Palestinian Authority's Colonization and Wall Resistance Commission, CRRC. Al Jazeera reports. Russia-Ukraine war, international response. South Africa will investigate how 17 South African citizens were lured into joining a mercenary force in the Russia-Ukraine war under the pretext of lucrative employment and contracts, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's office said today. The government is working through diplomatic channels to repatriate the 17 men who are currently trapped in Ukraine. Ramaphosa's office said it was not yet clear which side the men were fighting on. Gerald Imre reports for AP News. Poland, Romania, and Denmark are deploying the American MEROPS system to defend against Russian drones. NATO caller Mark McClellan said the new system is able to target drones and take them down at low cost as well. It's a lot cheaper than flying an F-35 into the air to take them down with a missile. Emma Burrows reports for AP News. U.S. Caribbean and Pacific operations. The USS Gerald R. Ford carrier and its escort ships are now en route to the Caribbean, according to satellite imagery. USS Iwo Jima, Gravely, and Stockdale are already in the region, with some carrying Tomahawk cruise missiles. U.S. Southern Command has traditionally been a backwater, retired Colonel Mark Canacia told Axios, but the administration's focus on hemispheric security has produced more attention, and we're seeing that implemented with this military buildup. Colin Demarest reports. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth yesterday met with a bipartisan group of lawmakers to discuss the legal rationale and strategy behind the Trump administration's strikes against alleged drug vessels in the Caribbean and Pacific. Several lawmakers have also reviewed a secret legal opinion from the Justice Department providing the legal basis for the strikes. Senator Tim Kaine, DVA, said, "There is nothing in there about the rationale for Venezuela strikes. So it's a very elaborate legal rationale for why you can strike a boat in international waters." Repeter Gregory Meeks, DNY, said nothing in the opinion or the briefing convinced him that the strikes are legal. Stephen Groves and Matt Brown report for AP News. Sudanese civil war. We are deeply alarmed by mounting reports of grave violence against civilians, following the capture of El Fasher by the Sudanese Rapid Support Forces paramilitary last week. Deputy UN spokesperson Farhan Haq said yesterday. Haq said local sources have reported some 1,300 people with gunshot wounds arriving in Tawila after being attacked as they fled El Fasher. Nearly 82,000 people have fled El Fasher since October 26th, according to the International Organization for Migration. UN News reports. Other global developments. Libyan authorities have detained prison director Osama el-Masri Jim, who is accused by the International Criminal Court of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity against inmates, the Libyan Attorney General's office said yesterday. Earlier this year, Italy repatriated Njim to Libya for security reasons and on procedural grounds, according to Italian officials. The ICC said Italy had breached its obligation by failing to properly execute the arrest. Pranav Bhaskar and Elisabetta Povoledo report for the New York Times. Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday ordered Russian foreign and defense officials to submit proposals to possibly resume nuclear tests. Putin reaffirmed that if the United States conducted such tests, Russia would respond. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told CNN that Russia is just investigating whether it is necessary to start preparations and is still bound by our obligations on the overall ban of nuclear tests. Avery Lotz reports for Axios. The EU deployed a warship to the coast off Somalia after a suspected pirate group tried to target ships in the area, maritime sources said yesterday. The deployment follows an attack by armed assailants against a commercial tanker on Monday off the coast of Mogadishu. British maritime security company Ambry said yesterday it is highly likely that a Somali pirate action group is at sea and has been operating more than 300 nautical miles offshore Somalia. Jonathan Saul reports for Reuters. Tech developments. The Chinese government has issued guidance requiring new data center projects receiving state funding to only use domestically made AI chips, two sources told Reuters. Data centers that are less than 30% complete have been ordered to remove all foreign installed chips and/or to cancel plans to purchase them, the sources said. The sources declined to identify which Chinese regulatory body issued the order and said it is unclear whether the changes apply nationwide, Reuters reports. Researchers in Google's threat intelligence group have identified two new malware strains that use large language models to change their behavior mid-attack, according to a report published yesterday. The report says the AI-powered malware can dynamically generate malicious scripts, obfuscate their own code to evade detection, and leverage AI models to create malicious functions on demand. Sam Sabin reports for Axios. U.S. immigration developments. The Homeland Security Department is revoking temporary protected status for South Sudanese nationals, according to a notice uploaded to the Federal Register yesterday. South Sudanese nationals under this protection, who have come to the United States since 2011, will lose their legal status in January and have 60 days from now to leave or face deportation. The revocation is expected to affect around 5,000 people. Eric Bazal-Imel reports for Politico. Pope Leo XIV earlier this week spoke out against the DHS decision to deny Catholic priests and nuns from entering the Broadview ICE processing facility outside Chicago. Pope Leo said he would like to ask the authorities to allow pastoral workers to attend to the needs of those people. DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin told Axios that religious organizations are not allowed to provide services at Broadview because it is a field office, not a detention facility, Carrie Shepard reports. ICE agents yesterday raided a child daycare center in Chicago and took a teacher away. Video footage shows two men, one in a balaclava, dragging a woman out of the daycare center as she screams. Representative Mike Quigley, Democrat of Illinois, said the teacher was grabbed in front of children, and another source described children crying. Emily Schmall and Heather Schlitz report for Reuters. U.S. Foreign Affairs. U.S. Africa Command officials this week drew up several options regarding possible military operations in Nigeria following President Trump's announcement over the weekend threatening military action in Nigeria to stop attacks on Christians, according to defense officials. Proposals forwarded to the Joint Staff at the Pentagon included conducting airstrikes on known compounds in northern Nigeria inhabited by militant groups, drone strikes on vehicles and convoys, and U.S. troops teaming up with Nigerian soldiers to raid villages to root out insurgents. Helen Cooper reports for the New York Times. Nigerian Information Minister Mohammed Idris said yesterday that any narrative suggesting that the Nigerian state is failing to take action against religious attacks is based on misinformation or faulty data. Idris said that the country is trying to tackle terrorism, which affects both Christians and Muslims, adding that the Nigerian government is committed to ending extremist violence. Camillus Ibo and Alicia Balagbagbo report for Reuters. A State Department official said yesterday that Taiwan must be allowed full and equal participation when China hosts the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit next year. China's foreign ministry said earlier this week that Taiwan's participation is contingent upon complying with the One China principle. Michael Martina reports for Reuters. U.S. domestic developments. A federal judge yesterday criticized the Justice Department's prosecution of former FBI Director James Comey, saying it had taken an indict first, investigate later approach. The judge ordered the DOJ to hand over all grand jury evidence and other materials that it had failed to disclose to Comey's legal team by Thursday. Jacob Rosen reports for CBS News. Trump administration actions. The Interior Department has paused its plans to fire more than 2,000 employees during the government shutdown, according to a court filing on Tuesday. The filing indicates that the Interior Department is complying with a court order that blocked the Trump administration from conducting mass layoffs during the shutdown. Maxine Joselot reports for the New York Times. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy yesterday announced a 10% reduction in U.S. air traffic across 40 airports in the coming days due to the ongoing government shutdown. Sources said that the cuts will likely be phased in from Friday. Mary Cunningham, Chris Van Cleve, and Megan Cerullo report for CBS News. Trump has raised about $1.9 billion from corporate donors to help finance political committees, White House construction, and celebrations for the 250th anniversary of the United States, sources told Axios. The midterms are paid for, a source said. Mark Caputo reports. Trump administration litigation. A federal judge yesterday issued a temporary restraining order requiring immigration officials to provide bottled water, clean bedding, hygiene products, and access to lawyers to detainees at the Broadview ICE facility near Chicago. The judge gave federal officials until midday tomorrow to submit a report on how they were meeting the 15 requirements set out in his order. Mitch Smith reports for the New York Times. The mood inside the Trump administration yesterday was grim, following tariff arguments in the Supreme Court, two sources said. During oral arguments, several high court justices appeared skeptical of Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 and of arguments that Congress intended to delegate such broad powers to the president. What would prohibit Congress from just abdicating all responsibility to regulate foreign commerce, for that matter, declare war to the president? Justice Neil Gorsuch asked. Megan Messerly reports for Politico. In case you missed it, yesterday on Just Security. The U.S. Draft Security Council resolution on Gaza, initial concerns by Eliav Lieblich. UN extension of EU troops in Bosnia obscures fissures reflected in debate by Kurt Basuener. Drones are changing how wars harm civilians by Lauren Spink. Thank you for listening to Just Security's early edition today, November 6th, 2025. If you enjoy listening, Just Security's analytic articles are also available in audio form on the justsecurity.org website. To stay up to date on Just Security's analysis of law, policy, and current events, go to justsecurity.org, subscribe to Just Security on Substack, and follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Threads.